Welcome to A Belly Full podcast. I'm Tatiana Patton, and I'm the founder of Soul Food Movement, a faith-based apparel brand that is designed to create conversation centered in Christianity and to ultimately encourage people to pursue a real relationship with Jesus Christ. And this podcast is a platform to do just that. Some of the best conversation is found in the kitchen or over a plate of delicious food. So join us as we discuss life, lessons, relationships, and everything in between on this journey as a believer and follower of Jesus Christ. So come on in and get you a belly full. Welcome to the fifth of 6 episodes of A Belly Full podcast. We are almost at the end. We're almost there. It is the episode before the last episode. And for this episode, we have Shanna Edgecombe, someone who I've known for a while, but have not been in contact with for a while. She does many things, but I think the latest of what I know, and Shanna, you can correct me. I know she's doing, I guess, what do you call that? Is it a florist? Or is it floral design?
Floral design. Yeah.
Okay, floral design. So say hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, people. This is me trying to put on my extrovert face.
Yes, we are trying to be awake.
Yes.
We are both very tired. I know that you were saying, or I saw your post like in the beginning of February about how basically you're going to be, it's like the most busiest time of the year for you, and that you were going to be flooded. And I also realized that before, like when I asked you to be on the podcast initially, and you had said that February was basically booked, and then you kind of like sent me all of your information like way beforehand. And I was like, that's probably why. After I read your post, I was like, that's probably why, because she knew she was going to be busy all throughout the month of February. So how did that go for you? How do you feel now? Is it slowing down, or is it like...
It slowed down a bit, but we're still in wedding season, right? So Valentine's Day, for backstory, for any floral shop, at least here, is the biggest money maker for the year, followed by Christmas and then Mother's Day usually. And so we worked like 60 hours in 5 days.
Oh wow.
So it was crazy. And we've actually worked longer hours in the past, but luckily for us, Valentine's Day fell on a Monday and not a Friday. So we were able to do more work on the Sunday because the store was closed. Customers were not there. The phone wasn't ringing. We didn't have to keep stopping. Because normally we can work 70, 80 hours within the span of 5 days. So it was good though. I mean, we're still in wedding season. So every weekend there's still weddings going on. And then there are people getting married during the week as well. But most of the weddings that I work on are usually on Saturdays. So I would do flowers Friday and Saturday if I'm booked.
Yeah. How long have you been? Because when I feel like after having known you for a while, did I know that you were doing floral designs? Because I know you were doing other stuff related to business and also like I feel like communications. But so like how long were you doing that? How long were you doing that beforehand, and how did you get into that?
Yeah. Okay, so I actually started working with flowers December of 2013. It was very part-time. And the reason why I really got into it was because I'm a former wedding planner. I still
Oh,
do it
wow.
on occasion, but I got burnt out and I decided to take a step back. But I was a wedding planner and I realized that there are a lot of planners who tend to specialize in something. And I realized that I had a minor obsession with flowers because everywhere I traveled in the world, no matter where, I would always take photos of flowers, like dozens of photos, hundreds of photos when I went to the Netherlands, literally, of tulip fields and all this different stuff. And so I said, let me give this floral design thing a shot, a try, to see if something is there. I called around a couple of places. The second place, the first person who trained me, it was the second place I called. She said, yeah, come in, let's meet. And so that same day I went in. She said, okay, you can keep coming back every Saturday and I'll pay you. Because initially I said, listen, I will come and you can train me for free. I'll work in the store for free. I don't care. I just want the experience. But after the first day, she said, no, you come and I'll pay you. And so that's how the journey began. I've had some great teachers over the years, and all of them have split off and opened their own shops and doing their own thing. And then, of course, I also invest in education as well. So I may travel or I may take courses online. But that's really how I got started and how I continue to grow and evolve my skills.
Did I always know that you were a wedding planner?
No,
I'm,
no,
I'm like, did I reach out
probably
to you
not.
when I?
Probably not. Like, I'm really bad at promoting myself.
Yeah,
So,
I understand that completely.
yeah, you know how it is. Like, as creatives, we'd rather do the work. That
Yeah.
I mean, not all creatives, not all of us are alike, but for a lot of us, we would rather do the work and then we get work off of referrals, right? Instead of like really putting a lot of effort into marketing because that's time that we consider taking away from client work, and getting time to do something that feels like it's unpaid, even though marketing does have an ROI. You know, that's how
Yeah.
it is. But a lot of people didn't know that I planned weddings. A lot of people did not know that I did flowers until I became more vocal about it. More people knew that I do business consulting.
Yeah.
I still do that, but I that has taken a back seat just because God was like, no, you're not going to try to do all five of these things together at once and think that you're going to do them all well. And so he told me to put down some things, to scale some things back, and that's what I did.
I think that even like as a creative, like I think that it's like you're bound to be multifaceted. Like I don't know, like not just doing one thing. Because even you talking about, well, I think I like doing things with my hands, or I like being hands on. Just I feel like the thought of doing the whole the flowers thing sounds attractive to me, but then also like it might be something where it's like I say that and then when I start doing it I'm like no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I like to work with my I like to do things where I'm like working with my hands. So that just I guess hearing how you got into it sounds like pretty cool. I mean, like I feel like I should be able to not be able to walk into it. But like if I were to just say not to even I feel like not to even make a business out of it. But no, just as like a hobby or something. Is it relaxing at all or no?
Um, yes and no. So I'm at a place now where it can be relaxing just because I have like some technique and foundation. But I
But it
can
took you a
understand
long time to
how,
get there.
yeah. But in the beginning, it can be stressful because you're unsure of what you're doing, how to do it. You're shaky on your foundation, or you just don't know how to do things, simply put. And you may know how you want something to end up looking, but how to get there is
Yeah,
stress.
that's how I feel about art. I mean, it's not stressful person. No, let me not say that. I think maybe that's how I feel about designing things. Because that's not even something that I was like that I was into, and I think I just do it now out of necessity. I don't feel confident in doing it for other people like that. I've done it for some other people, but I don't feel as confident because I feel like I had no real training for it. But I think, yeah. And you said you have like technique now, right? So,
Yeah.
so
But
maybe
it's
that's what I
still
need to
like,
get, because I feel like when I start it, like I might have an idea, but I getting there is the harder part. And yeah, I can understand that for me does stress me out when I'm trying to make up something. That takes the longest time, I feel like.
and like art is subjective, flowers are subjective, videography, photography, any type of art is subjective. And so
Yeah.
you could, like, there are so many times when we put our best work out and it's like, oh my gosh, this thing is beautiful. Like, if we do work, and when I say we, I do freelance still at a flower shop, the flower shop that I started off with in the beginning. I still freelance sometimes, and we can create something beautiful and it's sitting in the shop waiting to be picked up or waiting to be delivered, and every time someone walks by, they're like, oh my god, that's beautiful. And then the person who ordered it, or the person who got it, they're like, what is this? We're so disappointed. And it's hurtful because it's like, that was like my
Yeah.
best thing today. You just don't know. And then there are the arrangements or the bouquets that we don't like. Like, I don't think every artist creates things that they like all the time. But I
Yeah.
think you have to get to a point where you can do it and then let it go. And I was just talking to a
Yeah.
friend about that yesterday. We have to learn
I
that. Like, we have to learn how to, done is better than perfect sometimes.
I even believe that there's like knowing when to let go is a part of the like artistic, like you have to know when to let, like that's a part of the whole like art, or even I say talent, I don't know, like whatever it is that is in you to create something. Like you have to know when to letting go is a big part of that, because then you can end up working on things or nitpicking on things, and then it looks completely different, like you'll never be satisfied, I guess, and then you can end up just never really finishing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a friend. She's also a florist, a good friend of mine, and she does amazing work. Like, she's done flowers for celebrities and just all types of different people. And she does not post 99% of her work, in part because she doesn't like a lot of the things that she creates. We think it's beautiful, the world thinks it's beautiful, but she can always go back and look at a photo and say, oh, I wish I would have done something different. And so we're always having that conversation about learning to let go. And yes, sometimes we do wish that something would photograph better, or we wish that we could go back and edit. But the reality is, it's already gone and out the door, and the person has it. And it's, we just have to get over this need for perfection,
Yeah.
because only we know maybe what we were trying to get to the end, and if we fell short in our own minds. But that's our thing. No, the world literally does not have to know. For
Yeah.
example, that you wanted to do a short that was 5 minutes and then it ended up being 8. And you're like, these 3 minutes are wasted. And everyone else is like, this is perfect. You know?
Yeah. I mean, even the same with like um, film. Like, I mean, you just mentioned, you just mentioned it, but like, I mean, even with like movies and stuff like that, like, um, a lot of the times they're not, the end product is not at all exactly about like what it was drafted out to be, because I feel like with video and with film on set, it's like disaster is like a part of the recipe. Like disaster is 99.9% gonna happen at some point of it. And so you can have like, it's good to have a plan, it's good to have a script, it's good to have a storyboard of how you want it, so that way you can draw the outline of how you want things to go, and that way everybody can be on the same page as they're working together towards this goal. But whatever happens in between, which like I said is most likely gonna happen, especially with videos. Like I said, it's just like there's always so much pressure, and stuff is just gonna go wrong. And it's like it's about what they're able, the art of it is being able to still create something with what you get. That's how I feel. That's why it's like when things go awry on set, it's like this just happens. You gotta figure out how to make it work. And like I said, even when before movies get rated, sometimes they request for them to do certain things to it, so you don't ever really even know what the original script was, what people originally intended, because they tweak it along the way. But that creative process is like, I was telling Navandria the last week, was like a part of my creative process is like I can completely understand how your friend feels. Like I completely understand, because a lot of times I look at stuff and I'm like, ugh, like I there, you just see what you could have done. And even like with this podcast, like sometimes I don't even like looking at it, like looking back at what you recorded.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, why did you say that? Why did you do that? Why, you know?
Yeah.
But there's also a part of it for me where it's there's a certain part where I just am like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's like the point of no return, I guess, where I'm like, I just have to go forward, but this is ridiculous. Like this is a
Yes.
mockery. This is absolutely, everything is a
Yeah, yeah.
shamble. And then I have to like sit in that for a second and then just be like, I can't, like, you can't start over, because it's like probably like when I'm about 80% of the way.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. But I think, and I would encourage anybody that still document, still keep going, because then you get to look back and see, how you've grown, right? So when you do season 2 of the podcast, you will be able to see the difference in how you are then versus how you are now. And so I think that's really, really important. And I do that, right? Like sometimes my memories will pop up, and it's floral arrangements and bouquets that I did years ago, and I'm like, that was terrible. I don't know why I was so proud of that. I don't even know why I photographed that. That was horrible. You can tell I just kind of threw those things together, or threw the colors together, and with flowers, you are working with a product that is very perishable. You're working with
And
products that
delicate.
have traveled from all over the world, and they don't always arrive in the best condition, because a lot of times they have been out of water for like 2, 3, 4 days. And so, I don't know if you know, but when flowers are cut, for the most part, as soon as they're cut, they start to die. It's just whether or not the process is faster or slower. It just depends on the flower. And
So how
so,
long do they, oh, so okay, so you can't even say. I'm like, how long do flowers really last if that's the case?
yeah, it depends. It depends on the flower. If you could have something hardy like a ginger, which is a tropical plant, or a sunflower, they can last a while. Then you can have something like a hydrangea, which it usually comes the white ones come packaged with the little baggie because they have to be in water. And then they can start to wilt within like half an hour of being outside,
Oh,
in the heat. So there are times when we just have to make it work. Or, you have limited product because your shipment hasn't come in yet, but someone needs you to do this really lovely big arrangement, and you just have to get super creative. And no, you don't always love the end result, but as long as the client is happy,
yeah.
then as long as the client is happy, and then you did well enough that you represent your own brand, or you put out work that is good enough for the brand that you're working under, then I've just learned, like, you have to be fine with it. Mistakes are going to happen. Things will not be perfect, but then you have to move on.
And I don't want to say last question. I know I told you I wasn't going to be asking you a bunch of questions,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
actually have a bunch of questions now because I think it was just like so. Even there were things that I feel like I just genuinely just wanted to know, like especially about the floral things. I was just curious as to how you got into it, and then anyways.
Yeah.
So when people like hire or have like it is okay. So when people have a flower company and they have different, let's say different, they tend to have different designers, right? Like different designers, or is it just one? So do they, is there like a, is there like a brand to the way they do their flowers? Or is it like you have, they're flexible to do all different kinds of styles? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it depends on the business. So for me, I'm the only designer right now. And so when I do bring someone else on, I would train them in my style, the style that I prefer. Now, for the most part, for retail flower shops, they tend to stick to one or two different styles, whatever it is that's signature to them. The style can evolve, but if there is a team, one shouldn't be able to tell the difference between if I did it versus the manager versus another floral assistant versus. Now, we can tell a lot of times each other's work because we know, for example, like someone is a fan of grouping and someone is a fan of these particular flowers. And so, like I wouldn't use certain flowers, or I try to stay away from them, and then someone else really loves them. But the customer doesn't know any of that. They should just know, like, oh yeah, this looks like their work, period, in general. Doesn't matter who made it. Now, if you're talking about like an event company that does different weddings and things like that, then yes, ideally they would be experienced in doing different looks. Now, they may have certain strengths or things that they prefer to do. Like I prefer to do certain styles, but I can do several styles. It really just depends on what the design calls for. And that's for
So
me, like, I would be more flexible when I'm designing for someone else because their style, that wedding or event style, dictates that I do certain things. But for myself, if I could choose and someone says, oh, you just have creative freedom, I might not go in that direction.
would it be easier for you to have creative, is it easier for you to have creative freedom, or easier for you to have to go based on someone's, style?
That's a good question.
Because I'm thinking for
It
me, because I
depends.
feel like so much you can like compare this to just like, I feel like so much you can compare it to video production and even, like I said, I guess graphic design, because even like, I think that for me, I think it would be like maybe it can be more fun to do my own creative stuff, but it also is a little bit more one, it's a little bit, I don't want to say scary. It's just I feel like would take me a while to figure out exactly how I would want it to look, and then also it would be like, you want it to, because you have creative control, like you want it to be good and not like
Yeah.
crazy. Whereas if someone had like brand guidelines and I just have to go by that, then it would technically kind of be easier for me to just go along with that, even though it may not be as creative as being able to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you say?
For me, and you helped me figure out my answer just now when you responded, and I would say I prefer in between, which is if you say to me, Shanna, yeah, like I like orchids, I want you to incorporate the color red, and then I want something romantic. Okay, so now I have some parameters to go and design with, instead of me picking something that you may not like.
Yeah,
But I did it according to my, yeah. And again, art is subjective. So like for me, I'm very particular with my colors. So sometimes people say, well, I want my bouquet to be pink and white. And I say, okay, which shade of pink? And I've had people say, well, pink. I'm like, no. Which shade of pink?
There's so many different
So many different shades of pink.
Like,
Please
is
don't
it
tell
gonna be
me.
a poppy bright pink, or is it gonna be a
Right.
nice light pink, or is it gonna be a bold
And even
pink?
in that,
I feel you.
even in that, like in the flower world, there's light pink, blush pink. There's so many different shades of light pink. And so I need someone to be very, very specific with me. Either send me photos or I send photos, because I need to be very, very clear about what colors you are talking about. Because your version of pink and my version could be different. And I don't even think people know that there are different shades of white, which is crazy. But there are different shades of white. There's everything from cream to off-white to white to ivory. Yeah.
It's
eggshell.
the same with video, because then it's like we usually ask, well, for me for sure, ask for like like samples of videos that they like, because God forbid you create and spend so much time into creating a style that they're like, what is this? Where did this come from? How did you get here? And just to make sure that we're like on the same page, so I can see what it is that you actually like, then I need to know. I need to see a video sample of what you're looking for. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how you can really make that. You can really make that comparison. Also, so I'm making this dish that's called. It's a very easy dish because, and I, that I'm so tired. So it's a very easy dish. It's called. It's called sardine pupu.
Sardine pupu.
Pupu. This dish has actually made me fall in. I don't say fall in love, but fall in like with sardines, because I can't say that I really loved. I didn't know. Let me not say that. I did not love sardines at all before. I even probably had a what is it called when you're racist or biased or something against them? I had that against sardines.
Okay. Yeah.
And this guy who I was watching, he's from Hawaii, and he said that they make that their he said that their appetizer dishes are called pupus. And so he had this dish. He made this dish when he was younger. When I guess just growing up, having a bunch of canned goods, and and I felt the need to, not felt the need, but yeah, we feel like, maybe we need to start being able to, make some good meals with these canned goods.
Yeah.
I mean, especially looking at the way things are kind of happening or going right now. But Um, yeah, Trevon felt led to do that. So we had been buying some canned goods, and um, we had sardines, and I was like, okay, I just need a different kind of way to cook this because I need something new. And I really liked the way that he made it because it's like I said, it's super easy. I usually would run away from the flavor of sardines, but this is just like it embraces it. And so, like you put the sardine can, the stuff in the sardine can in here, and cook it with oil, like until the oil's kind of infused in there. And then you can flavor this oil with like whatever seasoning. He uses some kind of like Korean seasoning, but I just do whatever I have. And then you add the sardines, and then you have these. Oh, I had these onions that I have soaking in ice water, and the ice water is supposed to kind of like soften it, like take out the it's not bitter, right? The sharpness of the onion. It takes that out. It's
Oh,
supposed to make it more sweet.
okay.
I haven't done it correctly like 7 out of 9 times. But I have done it correctly like a couple of times, and I actually taste it because I would be able to bite the onion, and it doesn't have that sharpness at all. It's just like you could eat it and not feel like your breath's gonna stink like onions.
I don't like onions for that reason.
Well, I love onions, so I was gonna eat it regardless. But it so then you top it with you top it with these onions, and you top it with he made this like lemon oil with olive oil and lemon, the lemon skin. That I've messed up before, so then I just use imitation lemon oil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I might mix it with olive oil or just have some kind of flavored oil. Um, and then he made this like pepper sauce, which I generally now tend to kind of keep. I don't keep exactly how he did his pepper sauce, but I keep this. I think he called it chili water, but I keep something like this just in general. Do you like spicy food?
Yes, I
I
love.
love spicy food. So this is like, it's like I put goat pepper, garlic, lime, vinegar, some salt, a little bit of sugar, pepper, kind of to taste. And then you just leave that soaking, a good amount of vinegar, but yeah, a good amount of vinegar. And it makes it like this nice, like sharp spice, almost like the chili, when you put that chili pepper sauce in sauce.
Yeah.
Not that, but something like that. So you can drizzle that over different things if you want, or I can drizzle it. And especially with my son now, I noticed I used to put a lot of pepper in a lot of things that I can't quite give to him. So then that allows me to like be able to add that pepper in, and keep it relatively, not spicy.
Okay.
But so yeah, that's what I'm doing over here.
Very
Um,
nice. I've
but
been
yeah,
watching.
you have.
Yeah, I've been watching you. I've been looking and seeing what you're doing.
So, um, the last time I feel like we've talked, I remember was at Venture Co-working Space.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel spiritually like right now? I'm asking you so many questions.
That's like such a
I
loaded
literally,
question. Dang. Like you could have warmed me up to that.
before this podcast, I said, so Shayna, like, I'm not going to be asking you any questions really.
Yeah,
You
you
could
did
just
say
feel
that.
free to go say whatever you're led because I'm not going to ask you any questions. And then off of the
Mm-hmm.
bat, I
You
just
did
had
say that.
so
Pow,
many
pow, pow.
questions.
It's okay though. It's okay. How am I feeling spiritually? I think, well, not I think. I know that God has definitely been speaking to me about the things I need to be doing this year and what I need to be focused on. And one of the things is I need to be focused. I need to be focused. I need to be disciplined, more disciplined.
Discipline.
Yeah. And
That
I
is
need to
one.
be quicker to obey. Those are my. And
Wow.
then the fourth thing is consistency.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because it's like you can get prophetic words, and you can, have these big dreams and these goals, and God, I want this, and you're praying for it. But if you're not being
Being
consistent,
able to
you're not being
manage that.
disciplined, yeah, you're not focused, then what, like, why would He give you all of these things that you're praying for? You can't manage it. You cannot manage any of the things that you're asking for. And so that is the process that I am in right now. And so, I was telling the small group that I'm in, even as small as, listen, make sure your car doesn't look like you're living in it. That's discipline. Make sure that you make your bed every day, no matter what, even if you wake up late or whatever. Those are the little habits that breed consistency. And those are things that, working out. I've gotten into the routine the last year and a half or so,
Ooh,
where
good
I
job.
work out. And I do it consistently. Like, that is one of my things. I have to do it. And so, having a routine of consistency, because I'm one of those persons, I could do something every day or every other day for years. And if I stop for a couple of weeks, it can take me a year or two to get back on that.
Maybe that's a creative plight or something, or maybe I just completely understand. I completely understand.
Yeah.
I used to be able to run like up to I yeah, I used to be able to run like up to 7 miles with my cousin because we were training to do a half marathon. And I we were like, waking up not every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, but we would meet at 5 o'clock in the morning, and run from Sandyport to past Goodman's Bay. And then I worked on cargo, on the film cargo as a PA.
Yeah.
And that kind of just like completely rerouted my whole thing. And I have not been able to get back to that since then. And that was in 2015 because it was like we were working these long hours. By the time we got off, like for the 2 days we had off, I would be like exhausted. And then there was so much food. Like the glass kitchen was catering it. So it was like Bahamian food every day. Like,
Yeah.
I've said this before, but I was like, at one point, and they had craft services, so it would always have like snacks and stuff, like chips, whatever. Even sometimes they would have candy bars just there, and you're a PA, you're like not doing something all the time. You're kind of just there all the time. And so it's easy to just eat.
Yeah.
And like I said, one time there was like some Cool Whip, or what is it, the whipped cream. There was whipped cream at the stage. I was like, why is there even whipped cream here? Like, what are y'all trying to do? I don't understand. And yeah, I have not been able to get back since. And I feel like consistency, because there's so many things that I feel like I've started that just have not, I haven't been able to follow through. And I feel like what God was working on me with, this year in particular, is how to create like systems. And I literally just saw somebody post something about this where it's like, you can have goals, but without a system, like they can come and go, but creating the system to go by. And that's what I felt like with dealing with this brand, I was definitely a lot more inquisitive to him about what to do and how to do it, because this is not for my glory, it's for his glory. And so I realized, so like basically I felt like for the beginning of the year, it was like he he wanted me to write a whole kind of plan or outline, based saying kind of what I make, because I had, okay, so I had there were a number of things that were to be done, right? But like the podcast, there's the podcast. I
Yeah.
want to do a short film, or like a short film competition that encourages you to like, it has to be based around God or something, you know? And
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
and then there's this Bible exploration that I'm doing as well. And, but also, I'm the type of person that's like, um, I can't say I'm like whimsical, but more like going by what I feel.
Go with the
And
flow. Yeah,
so
yeah,
if I'm
yeah.
not feeling it, I'm not feeling it. And also, I didn't want to create a schedule and then make that schedule be like, I'm not the schedule type, let's just say. I'm not, I got to do this, and that. I think my son has kind of forced me into creating like some kind of routine for him, because I'm just not that type.
Yeah.
And so, um, it, um, I realized when I was making the, like, I guess, so basically, it's like an outline. So I'm not 100%. I feel like if I'm led to go another way, I'm not just going to be, this is what it is. But
Yeah.
it's open to flexibility, right?
Yeah.
But this is the outline of it. And so I noticed that even when I used to create other things, because I was so like, um,
Laissez faire.
I listen, huh?
Laissez faire. Just, go with it. Let it take its shape. Let it happen. If it happens, when it happens.
Well, I mean, I guess so what, passionate, that's what I would say. Because I might have been so passionate about the project, I would be like, okay, this and this and this and like I would create these outrageous
Okay.
goals, right? And it would, ow, if I were to even like stick to them, I feel like they weren't sustainable.
Okay.
So it's not something that can be done like a lifestyle, right? Like even when you're changing your diet, it's supposed to be not just like a huge hardcore diet change, right? Or following
Yes.
a diet. It's supposed to be a lifestyle change. So you
Yeah.
do things that you implement things that you can that you can do every day, and slowly, like, do it more slowly, because that um that is what builds the habits. And even like, even in the Bible, they have a a verse that I've been abiding by, I guess, where it says, like, little by little, like it says, like a man who gains like wealth, like a big set of wealth, basically, will
Yeah.
lose it, but someone who stores little by little.
By little,
um
yeah.
and
I just
so
read that
that's,
verse a couple days ago. Yeah.
yeah, that was like, I literally, um I have lived that.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have I have lived that, where I've gained or had like at one point in my life, I had gotten money from a lawsuit, and it was a substantial amount of money, and that money is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe it's bad or to say that, but I mean, it's the truth. And to me, at the age that it happened, like, I wasn't responsible, and I had been living, all my life. I had to fight, so I was like, I am going to live my life. I mean, I didn't do like crazy things. It lasted for a couple of years, but I do wish that I had um I had some kind of reservoir of it now, like, I wish that now. But when it comes to, I know that it comes to how I see money, and how I plan on, like, creating the habits of how I would be responsible. Yeah, I think that when you do it little by little, you gain these habits. So anyways, I say all that to say that when I started making up the plan, like, like let's say before when I would say I'm gonna make social media posts, it would be like, okay, I'm gonna post. I need to post 7 times a week, 6 times a week, and then you fall off once, and then it's like, then you fall
Discouraged.
off twice, and then you're like so behind, and so it's like, no, this time it's like 4 posts a week, you know? Even like with
Yeah.
this podcast, it was like, I'm not going to create this podcast for eternity and have no date of when I'm going to stop. you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, that
no,
makes
I'm
sense.
going to minimize the thought of it so that way it could be sustainable. Like, I'll just do 6 here, 6 there. Not like every week I don't know when I'm going to get a break, Or even I'm going to do this 3 times out of the year. I don't know. But I feel like I'm rambling.
No, I,
What do
I
you
like
think?
that. One thing with that, again, God has been talking to me about, same with you, is systems and sustainability. That's why I mentioned before. He said, girl, you're doing too much. Scale it back. Scale it back. And so I used to be a person who thought, well, I thank God I've been delivered from this, but it was, you work hard. The harder you work, the more you get. That's a
Mm-hmm.
lie. It's
Mm-hmm.
really a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And so it became work harder, not work smarter,
Smarter,
not
not
harder.
harder, girl. Yes. No, I literally was just saying that in my head. Work smarter, not harder.
I used to do it in the reverse, work harder, not smarter, until, I figured it out. And so for me, I now I will take the shortcut. And when I say take the shortcut, I don't mean in a bad way. I just literally mean like, if I can get a template for something, I will buy the template. If
Yeah. Sorry.
what I've started doing more recently is I will subscribe to these subscriptions that have like captions already written, and then I just tweak them to myself, to how I need
That's
them to
good.
be. Instead of me trying to write a bunch of captions from scratch, I said, okay, let me just sit down.
Where is that website? I need it.
Oh, I'll send you the links. I'll send you the links. But they're good and they're helpful. And so, for people who just can't sit down and write, what do I write? What do I write? Those are prompts that help
That's
you.
me.
You just kind of fill in the spaces and you make it your own. That is part of my system now. Um, I've been trying to figure out when I can sit down and write my SOPs, because those are important, my standard operating procedures, so that when I bring on an assistant, I can hand over this booklet and say, hey, this is how to do every single thing that you need to do, so that I don't have to feel burnt out, so that I don't have to like retreat a couple of times a year so I don't kill anyone. Like that's not a way to live,
That
particularly when, yeah, it's just not a way to live.
that has to be that has to be like a word from God, because like when I did like OX, the OX studio, that was what I initially was. I was like, that's what I was when Travis first had the space.
Yeah.
Um, and when I did that, I had OX. Let's say by the time when I before 2013. And so when I was at the space, I was like, you know what, I need to do exactly what you said. And I don't have any, type of business expertise, but that it was like, I need to do that. I need to create something. I need to operate this and how I want it to be run. So it should be where, leadership, I feel like leadership is only as strong as you can tell how strong someone's leadership is by the people who are
Yes.
operating in it, because then it's saying whether they were able to lead them. They shouldn't be the one who's doing all of the work. So
Yes.
you should be able to create a system essentially of how things should be operate, and it can be communicated through this booklet. That's literally what I did. And then I felt like the minute after I did that is when I actually started getting like a bunch of clients.
Wow.
And now even with this, This one is a little bit different, but I felt like I couldn't have started this without doing something like that. So I don't have exactly how, because I hadn't started running operations, and this was something that I had never done before. It's like I kind of made the outline in a booklet, of like the branding, kind of like what the social media presence should be, type of stuff like that. But I feel like it's also being built along the way. So like maybe after a year or two, then I can say, okay, this is how I'm operating, and so then be able to write it down. So that way, in the event that there was somebody else here, then I would be able to, pass that booklet on. But literally, yeah, same idea. Which is why I say it had to be God, because
There are so many resources though. Like I bought something called Podcast Like a Pro like a year and a half ago. And
okay,
I forget her name.
are you doing a podcast?
I Yes. But we were pre-recording and then we paused.
Oh,
So it's not out yet.
oh.
But
Can I
I
be on your
forget her
podcast?
name. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could definitely fit in to the topic.
Podcast for
But
podcast.
but this lady basically she started her podcast. I think it was teaching people how to either leave corporate or teaching people how to have a side hustle. And then her podcast got so popular that I feel like I'm mixing up her story. This is how I think it goes. And then she ended up quitting her job. And so now she teaches people how to have profitable podcasts and even be able to make really, really good money with podcasts. She's in the States. But basically, Podcast Like a Pro is a complete outline of everything that you need to do, checklist, all of this different stuff. And again, I say all that to say that there are templates out there for just about anything. If someone wants to get into wedding planning, you can buy. I've bought contract templates. And
Yeah.
I bought contract templates because I realized that my flimsy little terms and conditions were not cutting it. Not when, there would be people who would try to test you. And so you need to cover yourself before things happen and not after. So there's a template for just about every single thing that we could think about that we need. And if you find that there's not a template, you make the template yourself and then you sell it and you teach other people.
And you can always kind of, you just have to start somewhere. Like it's not going to necessarily be perfect, but you learn along the way, and then you can know how to lead others, I guess, or assist others.
Yeah. God has definitely like taken me on a journey the last several years about coming out of this perfectionist spirit
Yes.
that
Yes.
is
Yes.
like
Yes.
it's a good thing. It's a limited good thing because it also has some big negatives, and one of the things is self-sabotage.
Yeah. I was going to ask do you think it has something to do with being a woman?
Good question.
Because I could see it as you, because I feel like a lot of women have a perfection thing, like including myself included. That's why, when to let go. I don't know if that's a book, but someone needs to write it. But it was something, I feel like it stemmed from something of wanting to prove myself. Like I feel like that's how it had to have originated.
You make a good point. I didn't think about it like that, and this may be controversial, but the male ego, most men have an ego. And that is something that I think a lot of women lack, for lack of a better term. And so what I mean by that is, for a lot of men, there's this just innate belief, well, they can do whatever. If that's what they want to do, then they can do it. I, but for us, and that's, I think that's just socialization, right? As as children, boys and girls are socialized differently. So, this is something that came up in the Women in Entrepreneurship class that I took at Cornell University with Cornell. And there's literally a whole chapter dedicated to things that you have to be mindful of as a woman in business. And one of those things is negotiation. We don't negotiate. A man will negotiate. A man will ensure, more than a woman, that he is fairly compensated, or what he thinks that he should demand, he will ask for that. Whereas a woman is more likely to take that first offer without saying, well, can you do better? Or this is what I'm expecting. Little boys and girls, as girls, we're supposed to suppress a lot of our feelings, right? Because either you're supposed to act ladylike, or you're supposed to act like you like everybody. Whereas little boys, if they don't like each other, they could fight and then they can move on. We can't be aggressive like that. It's not ladylike. And so all of these things follow us through life. And when we become adults, we pretend to play nice, we pretend to play fair, but it disadvantages us. So I do agree with you that perfectionism I've seen more as a trait among women than men. Men will go for it. You know, if you look at this is like the simplest example I can give. If you look at the audacity, like, men will try to park or squeeze into any space. It doesn't matter even if they just have like 2 inches to spare. They will attempt. They will size that up, and they just know they can park in that space. Whereas for us, we're inching and we're like, ooh, I don't think it's gonna make, ooh, doesn't matter how small the car is, you know. Ooh, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm not sure if I trust my spatial abilities. I'm not sure, you know.
I don't know. I don't know on my end with that. I think I'm gonna try to fit it in.
No, me too. Me too. I didn't buy my license. I can drive.
Especially if it's a parallel space, because I went to college in DC, and that taught me parallel parking. And when I see a parallel parking space, I'm like, ooh, memories.
See, you
I
got
can fit in
forced,
here.
but I watched so many. I watch so many women. I'm like, girl, you're driving a Swift. Stop it. But, you know, I digress. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've seen different genres of men, and not all of them. I do say men have an ego. Men have an ego, and I believe that the male ego is actually very fragile. And what our home dynamic it was, what our school dynamic was, how that influenced our coping habits, our coping mechanisms, and those coping mechanisms are what have kind of built or led us in where we are now, or those coping mechanisms are a part of how we interact now, and whether they're healthy or unhealthy affect on whether they're things that we need to, unlearn
Yeah.
and relearn,
Yeah.
something new. And then, like, because even, well, in the previous episode, we were talking about we were talking about rejection. Well, I was talking about rejection, how I feel like, and that also could be something of what has led me into what led me into perfectionism. And it could be something that maybe a lot of women experience rejection, either in the workplace or maybe in whatever they were trying to do. Because I always, I was, I was in a male dominated field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I said I never felt like, um, how people feel like they have to justify themselves, I guess. Or like being in a male dominated, they feel discriminated against. Um, and my experience in a male dominated field was that my work stood for itself. Um, and I didn't have to overcompensate in like learning all of the tech jargon, and like guys would come up and talk to me about certain things, and then shortly thereafter they would realize I don't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They just automatically get camera stuff, man. I don't know. Like, I just knew how to work it for me.
Yeah,
Eventually,
yeah.
with certain things with photography, I was able to like figure. I mean, there was a system of how you needed to do things, and then I went to school for video production. Um, so I know some information, but I always felt like I always look like, I think just as a person in general, I always look like I don't know what I'm doing. And then when people see the final product, they're like, "Oh, wow." And then that's how they kind of built trust in me. But then they realize, that's kind of my process. So I was used to being kind of maybe ostracized or looked at funny in the beginning, but I know that eventually my work would stand on its own. And so even that's how I don't know, have a lot of friends in the industry. Um, but I had it, and it's not to say that it doesn't happen because I didn't experience it, but that was my experience. But I do know, I feel like some people who I know, I feel like they may have been discriminated against, or they may have, experienced something like that, and that kind of led them to be gung ho on knowing every single thing, all of the information. Basically, like, you can't question me, you can't test me, and think that I don't have the answer for it. But
Yes.
it's not necessarily healthy.
I get it. I mean, if you feel like you have something to prove, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that like there aren't a lot of male florists here, for example. At least not at the forefront that we can easily identify. There are a few that I can think of, but I mean, yeah, it's an interesting field, um, and I don't necessarily know though that we would question a man doing flowers though, you know.
Mm.
Like maybe I don't know, maybe I'm a bit more open minded, but I
But maybe
think
it
it would
wouldn't be
just
you. Maybe it would be the clients.
yeah, that's possible. But again, it's like the same way how we when I say we in general, a lot of us associate cooking with women, but some of the world's best chefs are men, you know. So, I mean, yeah, I know where I get my perfectionism from. um, you know, and it's definitely something that I have had to address in adulthood because, again, self sabotage, you know, insecurity, lack of confidence, inabilities, feeling like still having to push and do more, even if I gave my best. And that's all I had at the time. And either
What
way,
about feeling like it's never enough? Have you ever felt that way?
oh yeah, oh yeah. Like, so part of the reason why I suffered from burnout several years ago is because I felt like I had to prove myself. So I would like over deliver to clients. And the issue
Mm-hmm.
would be that if someone paid me $300, I might deliver $600 worth of services to them. And I try to do that with everyone. because I was just so insecure about not necessarily my ability, but I wanted them to see my ability. And so I would overcompensate. And the reality is this: some people would realize, oh, she went above and beyond. And then there'd be others who were like, okay, thanks. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
And some who take advantage.
yes, I was about to say there are some who will push, and they will push, especially if you don't push back. You know, scope creep is real. If you all don't know what that is, look it up. Scope creep. That is
What
very
is it called?
real. Scope creep. So basically, it's
Scope.
like where a scope of work or a job description or a proposal can morph into this whole bigger thing, but they're still only paying for this little thing. And so that I ended up having to fight bitterness, realizing that there are people taking advantage of the fact that I'm trying to overcompensate. And, you know, I'll never forget, a friend said this to me. She said, you know, you can't sustain the way you're working because you're trying to, someone who's paying you $3,000, they should get much more attention and quality of work than someone who is paying you $400. But you're trying to give the same clients, the two clients, very different price points. You're trying to give them both the same level of work and the same level of attention, and
And
it's
time.
unsustainable, and time, and it's not fair to the client who's paying more. So I have kept that in the back of my mind, and that has helped me learn to just let things go.
Yeah, that even I feel like that's something that is a learning process, like something that I feel like my husband and I were talking about, because I feel like God would allow it to happen with like basically it's kind of like it we just come to the point where it's like nobody gets a blight. Like it doesn't matter if it's a family member or a friend or whatever. Like no, we have to just charge our rates because somebody, the people who, a lot of the times, the people who want to pay less are the biggest complainers, because they're not, well, I'm not even going to get into why that could possibly be, but a lot of the times those people who are paying less have the most that they try to do. Whereas sometimes the people who are paying more, they're not as like on you, on top of you as much as the people who are paying less. And so anyways, you get stressed out and then you get to a point where you're realizing, man, I'm doing a lot of work for like not a lot. And I think that it's like we've learned that along the way, but it was just coming to a point where now it's just like, okay, even whoever we ended up doing that to, it was just like ended up getting screwed over. And it was just kind of come to the point where it's like, man, I'm tired of like just feeling like I've been taken advantage of, because that's kind of like how you end up feeling like you're being taken advantage of, and people don't value your work and they don't value your time. And even for me, like doing video and stuff like that now, it's like I don't even per se want to do it for other people. And so that makes it even harder for me now to be like, okay, I'll just do this. Like it would be a very, 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 very selective, reasoning as to why I do it. Like maybe the person has helped me out and I know that they're not going to be like, you know, but yeah, I felt like God was putting us through a process of that where it was like, I've had enough. Like, I'm tired, tired of doing it this way, because like I said, at the end of the day, I think you just really feel used.
Yeah.
And you just got tired of feeling used, because especially if you're a hard worker, it's like almost a default to just work hard.
Yeah.
And as you said, like, working harder is not always the best. And then especially if you see other people who are not working as hard, but you can't be mad at them because they're working smarter,
Yeah.
you know? So,
That's a really good point. Yeah. Like you said, like that's a learning process, and I think everyone has to learn what their capacity is. And so, if like, let's say my capacity for weddings, I'll go back to that, is I don't do more than one wedding in in a weekend. I
oh,
am not. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say
At most, I
year.
might do like no, no, in a weekend, because I know that floral work is physically demanding, and a lot of people don't know that. When I am doing weddings, sometimes depending on the amount of work, I could do like 12 hours, you know, 12 to 15 hours. And that's just on ceremony and reception. That's not even like personal flowers, like bridal bouquets and things like that. And, nobody designs sitting down. We design on our feet. And we climb up and down ladders and all of these different things, doing installations and arbors and things like that. And so I know that there's no freaking way, especially if I'm a team of one right now doing all the designing, that I'm going to do that every day. It's just not sustainable for me, particularly if on the back end of that, I still have to do the admin work, and then I still have to do the marketing, and I still have to deal with customers and things like that. But again, I understand that when you're first starting out, you don't necessarily feel like you can say no. You don't necessarily feel, because you're afraid, like you don't know when another inquiry will come in that is actually going to be a paying client, and so you almost feel like you have to hoard this money and say yes to everything. But then you kind of hit a stride and you get to say, I can say no. I'm definitely, it's not worth. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the beginning, I feel like you got to get your feet wet. You got to get out there. People aren't going to trust you if you don't have any work. So you got to make those kind of like compromises. But after you've gotten, like, as you say, your stride, that's when it comes to the time where you have to learn between, I guess, making your standard of client, because not everybody has to be your client. That's my thing. It's like there's some people out there who have like toxic work environments, and those people who I've learned, like, for me, that's like not my client. And when I see signs of that toxicity, where it's typically confusion within their team, it's like not my client. I already know where that's going to go. And I don't have to take your work, or I don't have to do your work.
Yeah.
But I think coming to a point where you're able to get out of the beginning mindset and into like I don't know, maturing mindset, I don't know, more experienced mindset, I guess, I don't know. That's the journey, is being able to stand your ground. And I do think, as you said, like, some guys are able to, well, I don't know. It might be easier for, let's say, you can say men, but I can't even say, because I have experienced some, like when I was working on a team one time, and I was like, it needs to be this much amount. This is what we charge them. And they were like, the person was like, I don't know if we should charge them that. I'm like, no, if we're going day by day, we got to go like this. And the other person was a guy. And so
So I think
I don't know.
again, it's different levels of experience too, and belief and confidence in yourself, for sure. Yeah. But I would definitely say, like, shifting from a poverty mindset, because a lot of us start off with that, and we've gone through life with that, not realizing. And when I say poverty, I don't necessarily mean like having nothing, like literally having nothing, but the mindset of lack and scarcity, and that there won't ever be enough, or like you won't ever book enough clients, or you have to keep charging this little bit amount of money when you should be charging more, and devaluing yourself and your work. That's a poverty mindset. And so when you shift away from that, then I think you get to think differently, make decisions from a different place, and then you
Is it
also can attract more.
is it it could it feel like it could even be the poverty mindset can be based on like trauma, like
Oh yeah.
the fact of of going through that. I feel like the entrepreneur process, and the entrepreneur process where you don't have a backing, like you just you passionately about this, it can it can be traumatic. I mean, I would say it could be traumatic because it impacts the way that you operate for a long time until you realize, well, I have this in my brain. Like I have this
Yeah.
system in my mind of how to operate because of the fear of the traumatic experience or that
Yeah.
happening again. So it could be even form of trauma because
You're
it's
right.
interesting. Even when you see people who have how the confidence and how some people can operate based on their their background. I mean, okay, living in the Bahamas, right? You have people from in high, like, high incomes and low incomes and in between. Um, but I can see a difference in people who I've seen or known who have a much more cushier background, their confidence in making decisions or knowing their worth because this isn't their livelihood isn't based on this per se.
Yeah.
But yeah, they may be able to make I would say more confident decisions, and even especially even with pricing and all of that stuff, knowing what their worth is and what they would pay.
I I'll be very honest with you. Being broke, and I say this from personal experience, being broke, you can't think. Period. Everyone doesn't have a pursuit of happiness mindset. His desperation fueled him. But even in that, he was obsessed with not being broke anymore. And so being broke, like, your mind is constantly going of how to get you out of it versus like, and that impacts how you think. It impacts the level at which you can think. Because you're just so focused on survival or getting out of survival mode. I did a whole event a couple years ago. I forget which year. And the title was literally the trauma of entrepreneurship because a lot of us don't talk about it enough. It literally, like, it traumatizes you.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn about yourself, the good and the bad things, and it's going to exacerbate the bad things, and it's going to underscore the good things. And so from there you kind of have to grow and evolve and realize that there are some things that you have to change. Like, if you're a people pleaser, you're gonna have a problem being in business. That's just period. Like, you're gonna end up feeling used and that people discard you because you don't know how to say no. And if you didn't realize that there are real takers in this world, you will learn that in business. If you are a person who does not have boundaries, does not know how to reinforce boundaries, you will always end up with scope creep if you're providing a service, or you'll end up giving away things for free or deeply discounted if you're providing products. There's so many different things. Like, I didn't realize that I had this thing about, work harder, not smarter, until I started working for myself. And then I had to discover, well, what does that even mean? And so I realized that my parents taught me that if you don't work hard, like, you're not going to get anywhere in life. And it wasn't like work hard and be effective. It was, you always have to work hard. You're always going to have to work hard. there's no getting around having to work hard. You're always going to have to prove yourself. That's what I grew up, that's what I learned, that's what I was taught. And so I used to feel guilty at times if, you know, I literally on jobs, I've had supervisors say to me, "You're doing your work too quickly." And I would be like, "I don't understand. You want me to slow down. How do you tell an employee that you want them to slow down?" But for me, it was like, I will not stop until I'm done. Like, this is my task and I will not stop. That's not healthy necessarily. Not to say that there's, anything wrong with being a high achiever, but I was maybe coming at it from a place of perfection and needing it to get done and done quickly and done well. And that was just me trying to prove something to other people and to myself. But it took entrepreneurship and freelancing for me to learn these things about myself. And then it becomes, well, now that you know, what are you going to do with that information?
Yeah. It's a journey. It's a constant journey, a learning process. But as you said, it does. It can end up highlighting, those and exacerbating those weaknesses, I guess that you may have already. And I always would say that, like, entrepreneurship is like a faith walk because you know that everything that you get is from God. Like, that when you don't have a check coming in every single week, you know that whatever you get is from God.
Yeah.
And so it goes into being able to trust. I think it strengthens, stretches, grows, expands, whatever your faith. And even people, I feel like, who don't believe in God, maybe it's their faith in something, faith in their passion,
themselves even.
faith in their goal or whatever, their purpose. But it is a faith. It's a faith walk. So, what would you say? What would you say would be the takeaways from this podcast? Like, if we were to write a list, like, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
That's what.
Work smarter, not harder.
What trauma? Dealing. How do you say dealing with trauma?
Yeah. Yeah.
Women in the work field.
Entrepreneurship will-
Perfectionism.
Yes.
And if we were to, the floral design versus graphic versus video production,
Videography.
the
Yeah.
comparisons and equalities.
Yeah.
And so if we were to name it, what do you think it should be called?
Ooh.
Because I would just think of taking one piece of it, but I'm thinking if you were to overall sum it up,
Yeah.
it would be
A creative journey.
the creative
Or
journey.
something along those lines. Yeah. Something general enough. Because we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we did. The creative journey. That's what we're gonna go with.
This was good.
Yeah, it was. I feel like maybe I am learning because I'll say this. Well, that, like, even before, like, with the podcast or like with this podcast, I was feeling like one day I was literally, I feel like I feel like I hear God speak to me in thoughts. So I was telling God, man, after this season is over, Lord, I don't want to do this anymore because I am terrible at it. Like, because it's just like I said, looking at the podcast, like looking back at it for some reason, because I'm watching myself, it's just like, I don't like it. I really don't like it. And I think also I feel uncomfortable in my weight at the moment. And it's like, it would just be, I would see myself do certain things or be like, man, I'm talking too much. Or like, I need to let the other person talk. Or why didn't I do this? Or why am I not paying attention more? Or, because there's a lot of, things that I'm doing at the same time. Like, because I'm cooking and trying to keep it within a time span. But I was like, it's too hard and I suck at it. I was like, I suck at it.
Being hard on yourself.
And then I feel like the thought came was like, well, how are you going to get better if you give up? Like one of my biggest issues or problems has been giving up. I'm gonna say too early, but giving up when it gets hard. Like even like looking at the way that, let's say with this branding with soul food, maybe you're looking for, I mean, maybe I can be looking for a certain following, or you're thinking that you're going to get a certain amount of followers between a certain time, and then it's hard. Well, like I said, because this is something that I feel like God has truly led me to do, and because it is particular with me about bringing glory to God. It's something where I guess I'm more aware of my thought process and my intentions, because I never want it to be because I want to just gain a following. But I guess being actually in it, sometimes it's like you can feel like, or I felt like I'm doing so much work and I'm not seeing any type of like fruit, I guess. But then I guess what God was saying to me, or the thoughts that I was thinking, and then even thinking now, it's like how long does it take to grow something? Like even I just started in just launched it in January, so this is March. It's like 3 months. Like I have 28 or 29 posts on social media, like in my mind now, thinking even now, it's like, what was I thinking? Like what was I expecting? That it's just gonna like blow up. But even so, it's like, well, before what I thought, the thought of what I had, because even I feel like the content that I'm creating and the things that I'm doing, what I'm doing is to shed a different light on being a follower of Christ, and to encourage people to pursue relationship with God, however that relationship may be, and then doing that by showing people's testimony, showing what people have gone through, why they follow Christ, maybe even talking and talking where with regular conversations like how we're doing now, and having God and asking, those questions. God comes in at some kind of way regardless. And showing the real livelihood. I feel like, and just showing transparency on, it's not just like hardcore. It's once again building something that is sustainable, and that's by starting out little by little, but encouraging people to pursue that relationship so that their relationship can kind of evolve. And so even with looking with the followers, let's say, that I have, opposed to what it would be with an actual, like, let's say with when I had Cutting Edge Creative, that I am trying to push and get followers. Like I really am trying to get followers. But here, these followers are different because these are all souls, I feel like, that are going to be impacted by what content I'm producing, or they see it basically, and that I never want it to be based on clout and based on my own thing, like, because then it's like you can get into that place where you lose the purpose, which is to bring glory to God. And I think people can do that in ministry, where they get lost up and caught up in the program and then, they fall off of the actual real focus, which is, you know, bringing people to Christ. You can get so caught up in that program. And that's what could happen. I see is even as I'm talking now, even with what we were talking about before about the little by little, one who gains a lot at once is going to lose it. And one who does it little by little is like building that up. But even God was saying, I feel like even if it was one person, like even if it's just one person, because maybe my goal, my purpose isn't to reach, maybe my purpose isn't to reach a mass amount of hundreds of thousands of people. Even if I were to able to effectively reach one person that could bring them to the kingdom of God, that would be my purpose, and I would lose that if I gave up now. And then also it was just even more of like, I almost like in a rebuke of like, how are you gonna, like, if you give up on everything, how are you ever gonna see the fruit? And like, even like now I had looked up, I know I'm rambling, but I was trying to learn how to grow garlic because I love garlic.
Yeah.
And with the prices of everything now, I just want to have more aromatics. I would feel comfortable with having my own aromatics in my house. But I was looking at how long it takes to grow garlic, and I'm like, dang, it takes like almost like a half a year in a way. Because first you do it for like 3 months or so, and then that's when they actually, I think then you have to take it out, and they have to, what did the lady say you have to do? It's some other process where maybe it has to cure it. It has to stay out of the soil for like another, I don't know. It was a good amount of time when I was like, dang, well, I ain't gonna be able to eat this garlic until like, I was thinking, I'd grow a little stalk and then that would be like in a month, I should be okay. No, it was like, dang, like half a year. I'm like, whoa. So anyways, what I felt like I was told was like, I would never even be able to see if I just gave up. And then also, once again, like I said, that I have to realign or stay in alignment with the purpose of what God has for me. And it's not always in quantity, but in quality, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I know is God doesn't waste anything. So, like the fact that even He gave you a partner who can help you bring this to life, like everything is ordained. Everything is ordained as long as we stay in His will. Everything is ordained. And even when we stray, He is so good and He is so gracious, that He will still be merciful and He will still give grace and He will still fix and He will still cover, And so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a very good conversation. I feel like I'm learning, I guess, is what I meant to say. And obviously I would not have gotten to this point if I stopped last episode. But,
yeah.
But yeah, so this is the final product. I don't know how it looks, but this is the sardines. I just put some celery in there so there's like some kind of greenery. No particular reason. And then the rice. And then normally
Listen,
I'll add
cup rice.
Huh?
That cupping rice, that's like a secret anointing I don't have. They all go in the same place, so it's okay. As far as I'm concerned.
I tried to make it a little bit fancy because the sardines aren't so fancy,
Got you.
But yeah, I guess I'm going to try this because typically I'll try whatever I cooked. But you can say if you want anybody to, like, I don't know, say what you have going on, or if there's anything that you want people to be able to find your work, or any shout out type of thing that you want to make, feel free.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you asking me to come on and be part of your first season. Yay. I look forward to seeing more seasons in the future. No pressure. And for anyone who wants to find me on social media, it is at by shanae.co, at byshanae.co. My full name is Shanna Edgecombe. I've always signed since high school Shana E as my signature, so I just said let me make it the name of my business. And it's also my website, www.byshanae.co.
And it's Shanna, not Shana. Because I think, how long, I don't know, when did I meet you?
Probably like 2014-ish, 2015.
You think 2014? Yeah, maybe 2015.
Yeah,
Maybe 2014.
2015-ish.
I moved back down in 2014. Maybe 2015. And I always thought your name was Shana. I'm gonna say it.
It's
I'm gonna
okay.
tell my truth.
Because
I'm not gonna be ashamed because that's what I thought, and I was wrong. Because your name
don't
is
correct
Shana.
people.
And
I honestly don't
now,
correct people.
hopefully,
I just-
people know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't correct people. It's just one of those things. I probably should start doing it, but I know like it's not out of malice, and it's whatever. I don't care that much about just
You don't care
be
about your name?
disrespectful. Yeah,
Well,
I'll be more specific moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. I can understand, but yeah, it's your name.
It's my name.
So I guess that concludes it, guys. Everything tasted good to me. Oh wait, I didn't try the onion to see if the onion was. I think I did it properly. I noticed like I have to put a lot of ice in the bowl and put the bowl smaller so that it's more like the ice is more like if you put it in a bigger bowl then you're gonna need a whole bunch of ice to fill the bowl. Anyway, it makes the water colder quicker. Um, I think that's the trick for me. But yeah, that concludes it, guys. That would be. I know we're well over an hour, but I feel like it was a good conversation. So I think everything has kind of been a little bit over an hour anyway. So I'm trying to remember my catchphrase, which was something along the lines of stay blessed, keep fighting. Man, I don't know, but I'm gonna say stay strong in the Lord. But I feel like keep fighting was at the end of it because stay in the fight. But you guys don't know because I made it up last time. But we're getting there. Anyways, you guys have a good night. And we'll see you next week for the final episode of season 1. Good night.